Welcome back to the Pitstop Podcast, episode 32, where we're going to continue our segment on frequently asked questions from our dealers.
All right, so just getting into it, we get a lot of questions from our dealers, and sometimes they're things that we as marketers think about and or maybe don't think about, and they're thinking about. So just continuing with our frequently asked questions that I've gotten from dealers, one of the things that I've heard a lot on is questions about how can we convert our eBay, our Amazon, our other marketplace channel customers into web customers. That's something that comes up all the time. So I just want to, touch on that in this segment.
Yeah, that's a great question because, eBay, Amazon, they're great for their network. You get access to all these people from, all around the country that, theoretically you do on your own website too, but there's just more people know about Amazon and eBay than,
right.
Unfortunately your own website, because they're spending millions of dollars in advertising. And so once you get somebody to your eBay or Amazon site, that's great. But now how can we get them to our site where there's more meat on the bone? We actually own it.
Makes sense to convert them because there's less, there's no fees associated necessarily with your website aside from transactional. Whereas with eBay and Amazon, you're paying, seller fees on top of your other fees. So it's something that's attractive to a lot of dealers to get them over to the site.
And one way to do it is, adding these leads, these customers, their email address to your email marketing platform.
Right.
So having different buckets too. And, the different buckets are important. You can have your Amazon, eBay, and just you have the lead. That's the most important thing. And so it's like, all right, now what do we do with this lead? How do we nurture them? And, how do we get them over to our website instead of just going back to Amazon and back to eBay? So, making those lists, keeping those leads and organizing them is very important. So then you can drive them to your website or wherever you want to drive them.
Yeah, and I always tell dealers, get on a schedule with it. If you're using eBay and Amazon anyway, don't wait 5 years to update your email list.
Don't
get on it. Right. Then 5
years is a little too long.
People aren't going to remember, that order they placed. They're not going to know why you're emailing them. So it's a good idea to get on a semi-annual or quarterly schedule where you're downloading that database from your eBay, your Amazon account, and importing it into your mail client.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. They're going to forget, who did I even order from you?
Right, exactly. Why am I getting this email?
Yeah, consumers are shopping from so many places these days.
Right.
You have to stay top of mind because it's cluttered out there. So
yeah, and if you're just getting started, doing this, that's another relevant point.
Right.
Chop your list, go back only so far, 6 months, a year. Don't go from the dawn of time when you started the account.
Right.
If you're just getting things up and going.
Exactly. I think it's a good point. Another thing you could do and the dealers could do is putting promotional material in the packages that you guys ship out. We were talking about in other episodes that post-purchase experience. And once somebody comes to your site, they convert, they order something, that's great, but you have to think of the lifetime value of that customer. And not only that, but how can we take that customer from Amazon, bring it to the website? How can we get that customer from eBay, bring them to the website where there's more meat on the bone and you have more control over your brand image there versus eBay or Amazon? So, put in a business card or put in something that's,
yeah, maybe a business card, little notes, outlining, your process if you have any issues or questions, concerns, if you need to do a return, something like that. And, I always remind dealers, this doesn't have to be an expensive venture. You can put a promotional code on the bottom of your packing slip for if they come to your website,
100%.
Place the next order on the website, and you get, 10% off or something like that.
It's funny you say that because I've been ordering a lot of stuff off of Etsy lately.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, it's not funny. It's awesome. Every order I get a little personalized message.
Yep.
And, these people are doing, it's a side hustle for most of them. They have, regular 9-to-5 jobs and they're doing this on the side. I'm assuming they don't have huge budgets to, get fancy paper and, it's just something it's enough to show we took the time to show you that we appreciate your business. And if you want to do, future business, here's 10% off or 50%
right,
off.
If you like your product, come back.
Check out my website, because I found them from Etsy. It's great because I wouldn't have known who they were without the power of, Etsy and their audience. They a lot of people go to Etsy, Amazon, eBay. And after I made that purchase, now I know where to go if I want to purchase in the future from her own website or his own website. So if they're doing it on Etsy and they don't have a budget, there's no excuses for you guys if you can't, throw in a little business card or a little promotional item into these packages.
Right. Another big question that I get that I think is really important is how can we decrease customer returns? And this comes into play because obviously, specifically with the parts department, we're dealing with a small, margin of profit. So anytime there's a return process, that can really dig into those margins. So you want to try and keep those minimal.
It's a great question.
And wasted, ad budget. I talk to dealers sometimes.
Wasted ad budget. Yeah.
If you're, if you're not listing, if you notice a customer places an order for something and there was some part of that listing, that was in error, maybe it didn't say whether it was for the passenger side or the driver's side. Now that that's an issue, go in and correct it. If you get a phone call from someone asking that question, take the time to add that to the description so it doesn't continue to happen in the future.
Right. Or if you don't ship freight items or something like that, we'll let whatever your provider is, Revolution, Simple Part, whatever, your marketing agency, let them know so they can go into the back end and say, well, let's not serve these ads for freight then, or let's not, mark these as for sale on the website if you don't sell freight.
Yeah, I see that customers. A lot with collision parts. So if you have parts within your catalog.
Like a huge windshield. We don't sell windshields.
Or a hood. They're custom painted. When they get there, oftentimes, any little nick in that paint job can be a reason for a return. So, things like making sure that your freight carrier, if you're going to be shipping collision parts or parts that could easily be damaged or have been damaged in the past, maybe you bake in, the cost for shipping insurance.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because a lot of people aren't shipping those because they do crack or break, or it's just hard to ship those.
Right.
But then, since a lot of people aren't doing it, that means there's an opportunity for people to do it. So if you can create systems in place where you let the consumer know up front, hey, it might take a little extra to ship there, or this, it could, the paint could chip, or whatever it is. Just letting them know up front, like, this is what it is.
Right.
And so they know.
So
it's not
here's
like
the claims process that you're going to have to go through because it's going to be on the shipping carrier, and just making sure you have a good carrier that will, honor that. Another thing I see a lot is policies lacking. So if you have it in your return policy that in order to accept returns, there's going to be a 20% restocking fee, but if you didn't provide a VIN, there's a 30% restocking fee. Now there's incentive to the customer to make sure they provide that VIN.
Yeah, and I think it's just educating the customer throughout the process because, again, we've said this in other episodes, don't assume the consumer knows what a VIN number is, where to find a VIN number, why it's important to put a VIN number. Don't assume that they know that there's going to be assume that they don't know.
Well, that's just like when the order comes through. If you see that nobody provided a VIN, you have all the customer's information right there. You have their email, you have their phone number, you have their name. Pick up the phone, call them, and let them know, hey, we want to make sure this is a part where the trim really matters. It comes into play. There's 2 or 3 different parts based on that. So you're going to want to call them up and say, your make, model, do you know your trim? Can you give me your VIN so that I can do a double check on our end?
Right.
So some of that customer service, it's really important.
Yeah, having your finger on the pulse, and I keep saying we've mentioned this in other episodes, but we've live chat, having your finger on the pulse, not an after the fact, after they purchase, or enter the conversation then and there. And, we've even talked about maybe hiring extra staff or somebody dedicated just to answer emails, phone calls, or do live chat, because yes, there's a cost to that, but you always have to think of the opportunity cost, right? So it's all right, well, if you're getting all these returns, say it's $1,000 for the month with returns, or customers ordered in the wrong part, not putting in their VIN number, whatever the case may be. All right, well, how much would it be to hire a part-time person to, field some of those questions where they could have solved some of those things before the order went out, or just to educate the consumer. You have to think about opportunity cost,
right?
Just like you have to think of, yes, it is a cost, but what's the opportunity cost if you didn't have this person helping out, more hands on deck, or again, educating that consumer throughout the process, and making it easy for them to contact you. Your phone number, your email, everything's on the front page of the website, easy to find.
See all the time. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, we have the contact us page. They can, email us through that form. Here's the thing. People don't want to email in a form and wait 24, 48, who knows how long. There's no real guarantee. So while that form is great, having a chat or having a phone number it's prime time. You really need to.
Right.
Especially everybody always says now millennials, they want instant gratification. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're not going to wait.
And that's the thing, is you can't, it is what it is, and you have to adapt to the consumer. You're going to be left behind, because if you're not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it.
That's what I was going to say. Your competitors are doing it.
Are becoming a bigger and bigger, part of this market share for buying parts online, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
And so, you have to adapt to how everybody shops, but more importantly, the biggest market, which is millennials, and they shop with immediacy and, wanting to be able to get in touch, yesterday. Like they want things yesterday, not just now. They want it as fast as possible. So making that as easy and frictionless as possible.
Well, and that knife can cut both ways too. That's, also make sure you're including in your return policy a time limit. 30 days. Maybe that's too long. Maybe 14 days, from the time the product arrives. So that's something to consider, is having some cutoff or shortening that cutoff to a more realistic time frame. If you find that a lot of your returns are being processed because someone opens the package and, maybe they use the part for a while and then they want to return it, well, your return policy might be too lengthy.
So
that's a good point. It's something to think about. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of ways, that we can really improve return policy. Packaging is important.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, we've seen customers complain about, say, floor mats that are put in cylindrical units or cylindrical bins, or I'm saying the wrong word, but it puts creases in in the floor mat. And I'm not in the warehouse, shipping these out, but we have to listen to the feedback, and maybe that is the cheapest way to ship it. Maybe that is the most convenient way to do it.
But if it's damaging the final product,
well, is it really worth it? And listening to consumers. Well, I got this, and the floor mats were all bent or creased. All right, well, why were they like that? And how can we potentially make that better in the future?
Sure. And some of that stuff you'll never know unless you ask for the feedback.
Right.
So
yeah, because you're doing as a business, all right, well, this is the cheapest way to do it.
Right.
And so it makes sense as a business. You need to make a profit, and you want the biggest profit margins as possible. So you're thinking of systems to deliver these parts and accessories in the most economical way. But at the same time, it's like, well, you have to balance that out between economics, and also what's realistic, and you don't want to be shipping stuff out that's defected or broken or creased or cracked or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, agreed. Another big thing that comes up is I get a lot of dealers that will call and ask me, I got an order and it's high risk from Puerto Rico. Should I process it? No. So, the fraud tools are in place for a reason. If you get high risk orders, if something in your gut feels weird, if this name on this order seems, computer generated, it's just a bunch of random letters, or, you reach out to the customer and the phone number isn't the customer's phone number and it's a medium risk. These are all flags, a real foolproof method that I found when you're questioning, like, billing and shipping address are different. What do I do? But it's not high risk. You have the customer's phone number, pick up the phone, call them, ask them to email you the back of their card. It's got their signature on it. Every card except Amex, it's got the CB2 code. There's no security risks sending that through, email servers. It doesn't have their credit card information in it, but it lets you know that they have that card in their hand. A lot of the time when we see people, thieves with credit card information, they don't steal the actual plastic card. They're getting it through, some kind of terminal output. They're buying it online, these kinds of things. So you can you can avoid a lot of fraud or questions regarding like different billing, shipping, and process those orders, and really safeguard the dealership by just asking questions and asking for things like that.
Right. Yeah, it's important just creating those systems so you know what to do instead of just canceling or just accepting.
Yeah.
Both can be bad.
Yeah.
Just canceling could be bad. Just accepting everything could be bad. There's a balance between having to do your due diligence, creating your systems, and seeing what's legit and what's not.
It's interesting you bring that up because it kind of leads into like another point that I thought about dealing with returns is, if you have to process a return, why refund the customer right away? Maybe you offer them a store credit. Maybe you say, hey, maybe this part wasn't right. Let me do an exchange, so that you're not just going, okay, well, you want to return, send it back, click refund. Now you've actually kind of lost that business. You didn't really satisfy the customer. Whereas if the customer, is having an issue with the product, maybe it doesn't fit, maybe they ordered the wrong one, maybe you say, okay, you pay the return shipping, and rather than refund you, we won't charge you the restocking fee if you want to just swap the part out for the correct one. Yeah, because then you're not losing that money from processing the return, and the customer is not feeling upset about a higher than usual restocking fee.
Right.
So there's ways around it.
Right.
Just be creative.
Be creative.
It's another way you can differentiate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point. That's a really good point. I mean, there's plenty of retailers online. They might not be auto parts, but that do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like store credit, we won't refund you, but store credit, or we'll give you, it's...
All my clothes I buy online, and I'm telling you, they don't always fit. I will only shop with retailers that offer that swap. I don't want to have to pay a restocking fee if I order, a size that isn't right in one brand. Everybody knows the sizing in brands is totally different. So, you can utilize little tricks like that in the parts department. Just take some creative thinking.
Yeah. Good point.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our FAQ session with Chris and myself. Keep sending us your questions. Let me know what you want to hear more about, what questions you have, what struggles you're dealing with, so that we can do more of these podcasts.
Yeah, no question. That is a bad question.
Right.
We've heard
Except the unasked one, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Tune in next time to another episode of the Pitstop Podcast.